Kristen, thank you for that live report. We're learning new information about a review of MGM Springfield's in-person sports betting application. The local casino is still on standby to hear what's next.
Western Mass News reporter Matt Satilli joins us live in studio with the details. Matt.
Kristen, Mary, we were tracking a separate meeting between the Massachusetts Gaming Commission and Caesars Sportsbook. That lasted longer than 7 hours today, which as of right now has pushed back today's official review of the MGM application. The Gaming Commission first met with officials at MGM Springfield 1 week ago today to review its Category 1 license application for an in-person retail sportsbook. That would allow people to place bets at kiosks within MGM Springfield. However, the State Gaming Commission said it couldn't complete a review of that application without reviewing the digital platform that the casino plans to partner with, BetMGM. Today, the state was set to review that Category 3 application for BetMGM. A review of the Caesars application went into an executive session at 5 o'clock, and after speaking with MGM spokesperson Beth Ward, we've learned that if this meeting returns to a public session tonight, MGM Springfield is still on standby. But if not, the Gaming Commission will have to post a new agenda, which requires 48 hours notice. That means the next meeting might not be held until next week. The first Category 3 license was approved yesterday. That was for WynnBET, which will be tethered to the Encore Boston Harbor retail location approved last week. Commissioners have set a scheduled timeline of January to launch in-person sports betting and in March for online betting. Of course, we'll keep you posted with the latest. But for now, reporting live in studio, Matt Satilli, Western Mass News.
All right.